Happy Monday and welcome to the Wolff Den presented by Winnigan Academy. I'm Matt Wolff, founder and CEO of Ticket Time Machine. Today we have Andy Stein joining the Wolff Den. Andy, welcome to the Wolff Den. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, and I love the intro music.
Yeah, it's standard from Canva. We did it from Canva. They got all these choices. It was very hard to pick. I might have to see if I can get something else. There's a little bit of feedback coming on my end, so we're going to let Andy do a lot of the talking today. But for those who don't know, give everyone a quick introduction with who you are.
Sure. My name is Andy Stein, and I'm the founder and executive chairman of the Orphaned Starfish Foundation. The Orphaned Starfish Foundation is dedicated to helping orphans, victims of abuse, survivors of trafficking, indigenous children, and refugees all over the world break their cycles of poverty and abuse through technology-based education and job training. We've built over 75 computer centers in 29 countries around the world, and we now help over 16,000 vulnerable children all over the world in every place you could possibly name. We've been doing this it's our 20th anniversary, and we have these incredible success stories of kids who were destined to be prostitutes, drug addicts, gang members living on the streets, who are now doctors and lawyers and nurses and company executives and everything you can imagine. And we've had a tremendous amount of success. We actually have a 91% success rate of kids who go on to university or get a job.
It's great stuff. How did you get into this?
So I always introduce myself as a recovering banker. I spent my career working for Chase and its predecessor institutions and a German bank, financing roads, bridges, tunnels, ports, airports, and then for the last 10 years of my career, high-end hotels all over the world. But my passion's always been working with kids. And now 21 years ago, I'll go quick, I promise, but 21 years ago, I was the #1 flyer in the state of New Jersey for Continental Airlines. And I was sick of getting on planes. I had 2 small kids. So I went to every country manager and I said, if you want me to come to your country and pitch business, which they all did, find me an orphanage, 2 hours on the schedule, let me play with some kids. I'm the only banker you know that makes balloon animals and does magic tricks. So I would go to these orphanages and I do that and help them with their homework. I speak Spanish and Portuguese. The one orphanage I was going to the most was in Santiago, Chile. It was a home for battered and abused girls, some of the worst in the country. They were the most beautiful, loving, amazing kids you'd ever possibly meet. But the third time back, the nuns took me aside and they said, look, Tío Mago, Uncle Magician in Spanish, the girls can't wait till their Tío comes back, but I'm not sure if you know what happens here. At the age of 18, like most orphanages around the world, these girls are considered adults and they have to leave. There are predators waiting outside. There's little education. There's no job training. So within a year, 100% of these beautiful flowers will become prostitutes or live on the streets. That was my aha moment. I went back and I blackmailed the law firm that made the most money off me the year before and had them create a 501c3 in a week. Blackmailed some of my clients. They raised about $40,000 so that we can build a state-of-the-art computer center, and decided that education and job training was going to be the way out for these kids. And it was magic. 6 months later, the younger kids were the top of their class. The older kids had learned how to use the keyboard, the internet, Microsoft Office. They had skills. And I have a lot of statistics I won't bore you with, but in 21 years, only one girl's gone to the streets. They call it La Mala, the bad girl. Every other girl's gone on to university or gotten a full or part-time job. Then I went to Brazil, then I went to Mexico, then I started traveling around the world. And about 10 years ago, I decided to give up banking, give up money, and do this full time. And that's how we've expanded so tremendously to have the impact that we're having now.
Yeah, so you talk about all the different countries that you've been to. You came back from Brazil. So talk about what a trip like that means for you and what goes on.
Well, it's more important what it means for them. So I travel, pre-pandemic and now post-pandemic to every program we serve at least once a year, if not more. And it accomplishes 3 goals on each trip. The first is to make sure everything's working properly. A lot of these cultures will not tell you that something's wrong unless you're actually with them face to face. So several of our programs needed new computers, they needed new software. That all gets kind of taken up when we have the conversations. But even more important, or as important, these kids need to know that they're loved. They need to know that there's people out there that care about them. And be able to visit them and do my magic show and all the other wonderful stuff, it shows them that Tio Andy and all the other people supporting Orphaned Starfish care about them. And then the last part is really making sure that kids who are ready for scholarships, kids who are ready, we can interview them. We can make sure that we can get them the scholarships where they need to go to university or private high school. So it's absolutely wonderful. So I just got back from Brazil. We go into the worst of the worst areas. I was in the most dangerous favela on the most dangerous street. And I think I was telling you earlier, and the kids there study violin, and they did an entire violin concert in the middle of one of the most gang-strewn areas in all of Brazil. And it was beautiful.
How about the U.S.? What type of presence do you guys have in the U.S.? Because it's a big problem.
So we have like I said, we have a 91% success rate internationally, and I wanted to bring that back to the United States. So we looked for one of the most vulnerable populations, preferably indigenous, and we found it in Native Americans. We have what the U.S. has done to the Native American communities is very difficult, and these kids don't have a great deal of hope. So we started with the White Earth. So we actually teamed up with the Native Boys and Girls Club, and we started working on bringing computer centers to those clubs across the United States. So to date, we've developed programs at the White Earth Reservation in Minnesota, Leech Lake Reservation in Minnesota, Prairie Band Potawatomi in Kansas, the Mohawk Nation in upstate New York, and also in Canada. And then we just started the Acoma Reservation in New Mexico. And we found that there are a great deal of similarities with our indigenous programs all over the world. And what I love is we met with the elders in one of the reservations, and they said, look, yes, you're teaching technology, but you're bringing something we haven't had here in a long time, and that's hope. That they can have these jobs, they can have these high-end jobs, and also that they don't have to leave the reservation. So they can continue their culture, but still have these incredibly well-paying jobs within those situations as well.
Yeah, it's very most people are uneducated, myself included. Who's got all the money with the Native Americans and the casinos and all of that? And the money?
So that goes to well, there are some very wealthy nations, like I'm living in Miami, and the Seminole Nation and owns Hard Rock casinos and is quite wealthy. But there are the nations that we work with that are not. And yes, they all have casinos, but not all casinos are alike. The big guitar Hard Rock casino here does a whole lot better than the casino that's 3 hours away from any major city in Minnesota. So you would think that some of these reservations do very well, and then also it's just unfortunately a lot of that money doesn't really get all the way to the kids that we're trying to deal with.
What does the staff look like? You can give people computers, but you have to teach them and work with them. So how does that?
We keep our overhead extremely low. So the overhead stuff is 10% max. We have a few directors in New York, one in Panama, one in Brazil, but everything goes directly to our kids. And the way we do is we commit to every program for life, and that means we commit for the teacher, the supplies, and the maintenance of the computers for the life of the program. So the staff is literally just computer and English teachers across the globe. And then we have a volunteer coordinator in every country who works for free to make sure that country is working as well as it can be.
And how do you decide which country?
So it started out all the countries I was traveling to for work. I go to Brazil, I go to Chile, I go to Panama, I go to Mexico. Then the programs we work with would say, oh, we've got another program in El Salvador that you would love. We'd go into a new country, we'd visit 5 or 6 programs and find the best fit. And then some of our donors would say, hey, we have a program, for instance, in American Samoa with a football player named Troy Polamalu. And they called from their foundation and said, we've heard everything wonderful about you. We'd like to develop your program there. Now we're well known enough that we've got a waiting list. It's all based on needing financing for it. But we probably have 10 to 15 new orphanages or home for abused children that could use our programs, but we just don't have the funding.
And how do you stop the traffic? So what you're doing is not really stopping the trafficking; it's stopping the people from wanting to go into trafficking, right?
So it's two things. So we work with trafficked victims in 2 ways. One, we have partnerships with the people who do save them, the Operation Underground Railroads, et cetera, that save these kids, but then they need to put them somewhere so they don't go back into prostitution. That's the only job they know. So we get involved in giving them the training, the skills, so that when they hit 18, they can actually have a real job or go into university. The other is not all people go into the sex trade by being forced. Many go in by choice because they have no other economic options. So our goal is to make sure that these kids who are vulnerable to be sex trafficked or vulnerable to go into that industry or actually have the training, actually have the skills so that that's not their first choice.
You're dealing with some dangerous people, right? I mean, they're not happy when you start taking away their work.
You know, it's interesting. Yes and no. I tell a great story that, you know, I work in one of the most dangerous favelas in Rio, and it's run basically by the drug cartel. And they heard about what we were doing, and they called our partner into their office and said, look, you know, I need to know everything you're doing. You're doing this in my area. And what the drug lord said is, I've got enough people to run my drugs and do whatever. The fact that you're helping my community, because they run the community, and that you're giving training to these kids, I want to be benevolent as well. So, you know, he'll have protection when he comes in, and no harm will come to him. But in terms of, you know, like I said, I don't get involved in you know, there are people who do this for a living that save the kids from trafficking, and they do deal with very bad people. But by the time these kids get to me, they've already been saved. They've already been kind of taken out of that life. We're really just giving them the training so that they have a new life to go into.
Yeah, you mentioned a good point about sometimes people speak it out because it's just, you know, it's the same with people here who want to be, if they want to be a stripper, they say, okay, we can make more money than if we just are bagging groceries in the public.
Exactly. So you want to give them and again, through technology, you're not getting entry-level jobs. You're getting really good well-paying jobs in those communities. So with these skills, they can have jobs so that, you know, it's not a choice between flipping burgers and, you know, selling drugs or selling your body. It's a choice between, you know, having a high-paying job in a call center or as a nurse or whatever, and then impacting lives in that way as well.
And probably a lot less relapse as opposed to like drugs.
Yeah, recidivism. Yeah, we have almost none of kids that, like I said, one girl in, you know, 20 years.
What's the age range? You say you take them just right after 18?
So, you know, so we start teaching kids computer skills at age 5. So again, our goal is to have these kids kind of be prolific by the time they're teenagers. But our sweet spot's kind of 13 to 18. So where they get the training so that when they hit 18 and they have to leave whatever home or orphanage or community center they're in, they have the skills to either go to university or get a job.
Now, women, it just comes to mind. What's the breakdown? Is it all women?
No, but it's mostly girls and young women. So yeah, it's probably 70% girls and young women, 30% boys and young men.
Yeah, I mean, why? Obviously, for the sex trafficking, it is. But why? You would think the men would be more apt to be taken for drugs.
Yeah, you know, look, there's aptitude in both. I just get this, just kind of by the nature of the programs that we came into, that they were more women-based than not. And by the way, young men and boys are trafficked as well. So it's not exclusively women who are trafficking girls, and we deal with boys who've been saved from trafficking too. But I have to say that there's probably, for whatever reason, there are more women, orphans, survivors of abuse, survivors of trafficking than there are men.
Yeah, we have a lot of foundations out here and good causes and nonprofits. There's just so much for people to help and give to, whether it's time or money. How do you navigate through that, and who's more inclined to want to be a part of what you're doing?
So, you know, a couple of things. One, I'm a former banker, so I run this thing like for-profit, even though it's a nonprofit. So for me, I make sure that we have full reporting, full transparency, that you know exactly where your money's going. It's not like the United Way where half your money goes to overhead. You know, less than 10% of your money will go to overhead. I think for the next piece is, you know, I know every one of these children. So you have immediate impact, and you know exactly where your money's going. But you're right, there are so many incredible foundations out there. But what we have been really good at doing is giving people impact, direct impact, where they want to have direct impact. So if you're really interested in helping out orphans, or you were adopted, or you're planning to adopt and want to help kids like that, we can have your money go directly to them. If you're interested in trafficking and saving kids from trafficking, we can direct your donations to that. If you're from one of these countries and don't really have faith in a nonprofit within your country, but want to give back, So if you're Colombian and want to get back to Bogota, if you're Peruvian and want to get back to Peru, we've gotten very, very good over 20 years at separating those funds so that if you want to give back to your community, you're giving back to your community.
And this is, again, you mentioned it's a huge problem in the U.S. Are most of the people who help Americans? Are they most all over the world? I mean,
so it's interesting. I'm very much hopeful that we are growing our donor base outside of the U.S., but the U.S. has the greatest history of giving. Some of it's tax-based, but you'll find most of the donors will come from the States. The second will come from Europe because there's some support there. But I've been very blessed that we've had people from the countries in which we serve start doing more and more, or that are immigrants from the countries we serve that have done well that want to give back.
Yeah, what's the difference in technology? You've been at it 20 years. A computer technology 20 years ago to now.
Well, the downside of choosing computer technology is it changes rapidly. So we're constantly kind of upgrading computers. So kind of you have about a 5-year life, and then we've got to replace all the computers, which I didn't really plan for when we first started. So that's just kind of something else. And then software as well. You have to upgrade your software. Technology changes. And we've started a program for 3D printing, which was unheard of 10 years ago. Started a program for robotics. So our goal is to give cutting edge technology, and with that is an investment. And
how many people per organization in the country?
It really ranges. So that orphanage I told you about where I started in Chile is 32 kids. There's a school in Peru for 1,500. So it really does completely run the spectrum from kind of 15 in a home for girls who've survived sex trafficking to the 1,500 in Peru and 3,000 in Bolivia.
Is there a minimum to get started? You mentioned just about the funds that are raised.
So the amounts to get started. So typically to start a new program is about $50,000. And then to maintain a program is anywhere from 15 to 25, depending on the country. So it's not a lot. We do all of this. We help 16,000 kids for a budget of under $2 million a year.
And what's next? How do you grow this? You said you already have the waiting list.
So, like I said, part of it is, and I'd love to talk. We have a big gala every year, and this year it's going to be live again in October 22nd. I'll give you some more information on that. So it's really fun-based. So we have, like I said, a list of about 15 to 20 new programs that we'd love to do all over the world, but we don't have the funding yet to do them. Our focus is to make sure that the thousands of kids in our program now have the ability and have every opportunity available to them. But the goal is, if someone said, look, if I gave you $2 million today, can you spend it? The answer is absolutely by the end of the year on the programs we have coming up and on the programming that we want to spread out to all of our programs like English language, robotics, or coding.
If you got $2 million, let's just say, how much of that would go to new countries and how much would that go to improving what you have?
So my rule is always kind of 50-50. 50% would go to improving English language, coding, robotics, et cetera, for the 16,000 we already have. And then the rest would go towards kind of emptying out that waiting list and adding programs in Ghana, adding programs in the Caribbean, adding programs in existing countries in Latin America that have been waiting for the Orphaned Starfish program.
Is language a big barrier?
Language is a barrier. It was one of the things we do focus on is English language skills. The way it's a barrier is, it's not a barrier to an entry-level job, but if you only speak Spanish or only speak Portuguese, you can kind of earn about this much. If you speak English as well, you can earn this much. So it really is the opportunity that you're given by speaking even more.
Yeah, it goes the same way. I mean, you're in Miami, you're bilingual.
I can go for weeks without speaking English if I wanted to in Miami. Yeah. I also speak Haitian Creole, so between the two, I'm done here in Miami.
I go weeks without speaking English in Miami too. I just can't talk to anybody. We got Richard asking some good questions, and thanks for your support. Feeling about the southern border here.
So it's interesting. So I have very strong feelings about the southern border. And my feelings are that I believe the solution to the problem is providing, at least selfishly and purposefully, opportunity in the countries from which these kids come. I've met a number of children who've tried to come across the border, didn't make it, come back. And no one really wants to leave their culture. No one really wants to leave their families, but there's no opportunity. So what I'm trying to do is, and I think if you invest more in groups like us, there won't be the same surge over the border. I mean, the surge is, in a lot of senses, to escape a crisis that they have no control over. And if you give these kids and you give the opportunity and you give them the tools, they can get great jobs in their own countries. They can get great opportunities in their own countries. There wouldn't be the need to cross. There'll always be people crossing the border. Everyone always is, that's just the way it is. But I believe one of the solutions is to invest in the children of those countries so that they're not kind of taking the risk. And crossing the border, people think it's I've talked to kids who've done it. These kids are going to get beaten. They're going to get abused. It's a horrible journey. No one really wants to take it, but they take it out of desperation. So, my feelings are, if you take that desperation away, if you give them the tools to stay in their homes, in their home communities, you'll lessen the flow of people across the border.
Yeah, I had a conversation with my friend who's Cuban American about the situation in Cuba, which is a little bit different because you can't go in there and teach.
Right. It's interesting. We've looked at doing something in Cuba for quite some time, and the issue is what can you teach? How do you teach it? I think there's still a way to do something in Cuba. Obviously, when the current situation subsides, I think there is a way to do something. You start with just kind of basic education, and then when you can deal with the internet and stuff like that, you do. But there's obviously great need there. I have some strong contacts that kids everywhere are just kids. They're innocents. So for me, I think there's an opportunity, hopefully, to do something in Cuba with children without parents there.
Yeah, part of it is just what do you do when you get there, right? So
right. You have to have strong partners.
Yeah, agree. What's your background? Where did you grow up?
So yeah, I'm a nice New York Jewish kid from Long Island, which is hilarious because people are like, "Well, so you must be an orphan." Like, no, my parents are still together. You must be Latino. I am as non-Latino as it gets, though my heart's Latino. But I just always had a calling to help kids. Even when I was a little kid, growing up in Long Island, I used to do walkathons and bikeathons. If you remember hockey, Bobby Nystrom was a hero. He got me involved in some walkathon. And then I rose up through the ranks of Special Olympics. I was one of the people around Special Olympics in New York. And then I got sent overseas for the bank to the Philippines, found a couple of orphanages that I really got close to, and kind of was off to the races.
Yeah. What brought you down to Miami?
I wanted to be closer, foolish me before the pandemic. I wanted to be closer to the kids we served. And the majority of what we do is in Latin America and the Caribbean. And getting on a plane from New York to Brazil is a whole lot differently than getting on a plane from Miami to Brazil. Also, personally, I had some changes in my marital status, and needed a fresh start.
Yeah, there's worse places to go. I'm a New Jersey dude who migrated to South Florida way earlier than most people do. But
I beat the rush too. I was about 2 years ago before the big rush, the pandemic rush.
I've been here for 20 plus years. So,
oh goodness!
I'm a veteran. I'm a veteran here.
And where are you?
I'm in Lake Worth, just up the road.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I moved down to Sunrise. I lived with my grandparents, and then I kept going north. Sunrise to Tamarack to Coral Springs to Boca. Now we're in Lake Worth. This is as far north as we're going. I told my wife, this is it.
That's it. Nowhere. Yeah.
Yeah, we're further north than I want to be, and we're further west than she wants to be. So
there you go. Sounds
a little bit of a compromise. How quick can you expand this? It's just literally about money. Do you have the infrastructure ready?
Yeah, we have the infrastructure ready. We have to make sure that, for instance, someone really wants me to expand it to Ghana in Africa. So we have a trip planned in September, and I'll go visit their program and several other programs to make sure it's a good fit. And I have someone who'll finance it out of London. So that's kind of how we'll get it all done. And, I need to make sure that it's a real place. We've been very, very fortunate. In over 20 years, we've never had kind of, any false programs. We haven't had any abuse in any of our programs, and that comes from a lot of work up front. So we make sure that it's run well, that shelter, that food, they have sources for everything, and then we'll come in and take over their education and job training. We stay very, very focused on our mission.
I imagine it's got to be tough once you visit an area to not move forward. It becomes real. Right?
It becomes very real. And look, I mean, I get very, very close to all the kids in our program, and then all the new kids when I go visit as well. But again, I've been doing this long enough that the emotion is obviously real and very. But I need to know that we're going to make a difference in these kids' lives for the long term. It's not a drive-by. It's not just kind of going and saying hi and doing a magic show and walking away. It's about making long-term change. So if the partner institution is something that we can work with, then I know we're going to be able to make long-term change in these kids' lives. But if I'm not there to just kind of give them a bunch of computers and walk away,
right.
We commit to every program for life, so we have to make sure there's a really strong match for us.
Is there people you had to walk away from, and what was some of the reason?
Yeah, so I got tasked. I won't say the country. I got tasked with someone senior in Eastern Europe, and they wanted me to come and advise them on how to do orphan starfish in this country in Eastern Europe. And I got there, and within a day, I basically, said respectfully, I declined, because they didn't really care about the kids. They were institutions. There were bars on the window. You saw no real emotional investment by the people who work there, and that's not what we're doing. Yes, we're about technology and giving opportunity, but there has to be this sense of love. There has to be this sense of caring on the workers in that institution. And I didn't see that in this country in Eastern Europe. So yeah, we declined going into that country.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's a movie thing, but you see a lot of these orphans and the way they're treated. Some really, really good, some not so good. Maybe if you watch the Queen's Gambit, it's like
Right.
relationship.
And that's not an exaggeration. There are a number of orphanages and homes around the world that are poorly run, or really are run not for the benefit of the children. And where we've been incredibly lucky and incredibly feel blessed is that every one of our programs, and that's why we do so much work up front, I would die for the people who run our program there, and they would die for me. I mean, and we would all die for the kids. So I mean, it's just this feeling of there has to be a sense of, I want to be corny, there has to be a sense of love for these kids by the people who are there. And then that's where the best fit and the most success comes.
Which is a situation that you can do more good. That's not really good. You can do better for a community and a group of people who are like really in bad shape, or the ones who are kind of in the middle, not in bad shape, but
I mean, I get this question a lot, and I got to tell you, it really is dependent upon the country and the children. There's no generalization. I've gone to some of the worst of the worst, the poorest of the poor, kids living on dirt floors that have created some incredible computer programmers, and then I've been to some that are more well-to-do and more well-to-do countries that really haven't excelled as much as we would like. They still excel, but not as much. So I think it's the drive of the kids, and however that drive is manifested. We've got a group in Haiti that has gone through a great deal between the earthquake and everything else, and they are very interested in movie making. So I've got Apple and We Make Movies partnering with them, and they're putting together some of the greatest movies you'll ever see in Creole. But and they come from nothing. So it's all about the drive. It's all about making sure that they have that sense of wanting to be better.
Yeah. So how do we get them better? You mentioned the gala. Tell a little bit more about the gala and what that does.
Sure. So about 3/4 of our funds comes in one night every year. And last year it was virtual, and I'll send you a copy of that. But we have a huge gala at Cipriani Wall Street in New York City. This year it'll be October 22nd, and it's a celebration. And people who go to these galas on a regular basis have told me many times that ours is the most inspirational and fun gala they attend. And it's inspirational and fun because it's focused on the kids and enjoying yourself. So we fly up 8 to 10 kids from our programs around the world, and they either talk about their situation and how inspiring they are. They perform, they dance, they sing, whatever. And it really is about their stories. And then we have an honoree that we honor, and then we have entertainment that's amazing. In past years, we've had Journey, Asia, John Batiste, kind of you name it. This year, I'm about 2 weeks away from announcing a very big name that'll do this year's 20th anniversary, but it'll be someone you definitely recognize. And then we have a band, we have an after party with a DJ. It's just a very, very upbeat kind of night. And again, it raises about 3/4 of the money that we need for every year.
From people attending?
From people attending and or sponsoring. So tables are $10,000, $25,000, $50,000. Co-chairs are $100,000, and they get to name a program. And then individual tickets kind of run up from 500 up. But it's and we run it on a shoestring. It's really good, but we make sure that the majority of those funds go directly to the kids as well.
Yeah. How many people are going to be at the gala?
So in person, we're going to have between 350 and 400. And then internationally, we're going to beam it live. We got used to doing the virtual thing last year, so there'll be another 1,000 virtually as well. So you get exposure. And our gala's it's a networking event. There are 4 marriages that came out of the gala. It's just kind of, like I said, it's a very, it's not like your typical, you sit there and a bunch of people talk at you. No speech is more than 5 minutes. Everything's videos. There's all kinds of productions. Melissa Etheridge just sent something in. She's going to Come to My Window for the kids. Last year we had J-Lo, we had Giancarlo, all virtual, unfortunately. Giancarlo Stanton, Troy Polamalu, Carole King. We had Broadway. Broadway's a big supporter of what we do. There'll be some kind of Broadway performance at the gala. And then we have an incredible auction list of high-end hotels around the world. Once in a lifetime experiences. It's a phenomenal night, but then it also raises a great deal of money for our kids.
This is a weird question. We talked to someone with a gala and had entertainment, and it costs them a lot of money to get entertainment.
No. So we don't do that. So we don't pay our entertainer. Our entertainment it's our 17th gala, and we've yet to pay an entertainer.
It makes sense, because why? You could take, even if you paid them and say, "Hey, it's going to cost X amount of dollars," like put that back in. That would be
Yeah, but look, I knew one nonprofit that got Cher to perform, and it was amazing, and they raised a great deal of money. And then when they ran the money after everything they had to pay her and everything else, they actually lost money for the night. And for me, that's not. This isn't an ego thing. It's great if Cher would perform. She did it for free, but it's not an ego thing. And look, there are some performers that just don't do it, or that they would, but their managers won't let them.
That's the answer. You don't get to talk to them, and they don't.
Once the second I get passed to a manager, I know it's over. But for those stars that really do care about what we do, and that's the thing. People have these artists have very much cared about what we do, and it's been more about that. Last year we honored Sam Moore, the guy who wrote Soul Man. And he got a bunch of his celebrity, John Bon Jovi got on to wish him a happy birthday. So, it's that kind of stuff that people are doing it from their heart. And then, they'll get a tax write-off for it, but, for the foundation, it's all going to go to the kids.
Yeah, I think one of the things people pitching product and causes, you just don't know, are they doing it because they're in for it, or are they doing it because they're getting paid to do it.
Right. And for us, it's all about, you have to really, we want people there. That's why it's such a special night, because everyone's there for the kids. Margot Bingham was from Boardwalk Empire, Billy Zane. It's just, we have a lot of wonderful kind of celebrity support as well. But everyone's there. They're not getting paid. There's no, they're dressing up there, but they're really talking about the kids. And they're really kind of, their whole focus is, how can we help these kids in my country, or kids who have been abused, or kids who have been trafficked, where they really care about what they're doing, what we're doing for them.
Do people come back?
We have a 90% rate of people who come back to our gala year after year. Yeah. And we try to change it up year after year, whether how we do it, what we do, the celebrities we bring, the music we play. But more importantly, people just are so inspired every year that they want to come back. So almost every one of our corporate sponsors has come back year on year, including last year when they can only do it virtually.
How about the people in the program? If I'm someone, you said you bring some people up who are in the program to talk to people who are 5-10 years out of the program.
So yeah, so that's what we do as well. We have graduates. So you're right on. So we actually have 2 kids who are coming up. One just graduated with a degree in criminology. The other is a nurse in the COVID ward in a country, and talks about how she was the last person that hundreds of people saw before they passed, but she provided them comfort.
Yeah, the last year has done a lot to harm a lot of good causes, slow down, and now everything's picking up. You got to kind of just try and get back to where it was.
Yeah, no, I mean, everything's picking up, but unfortunately, in a lot of these countries, it's not. So a lot of these countries are still completely locked down. CNN ran a piece on us because they felt we were the best charity they saw in dealing with the pandemic. We got all of our classes online. We started providing food, PPE, and support to about 3,500 families. We have, and we had these events called "You Are Not Alone" because everyone was feeling so locked up. So we got a bunch of celebrities to perform for all the kids. I got the star of Lion King to sing to the kids in Africa. I got the star of Wicked to sing to the kids in Colombia. I got the lead singer of Asia to sing to the kids in American Samoa. So we kind of got Miss Universe to do a couple of things. So we got kind of these kids feeling that they were part of the world, even though they were locked down.
Yeah, so it sounds like a lot. The entertainment world is locked in this. We see some, Rivera and Scott on Wade. You're obviously a sports guy. Is there sports that you and I talked about the Keto Foundation doing great work with trafficking? Who else is out there? Is in the sports world, music world?
There's a lot. What you find is that most, like Mariano wants to, gives back to children, both in his community and in his native Panama. And I think what we've really teamed up with a lot of these celebrities to do is to give back to the countries or the environments where they have exposure, where they want to make a difference. Like with Troy giving back to American Samoa. I think for us, that's on the celebrity side. But there's so many. We've teamed up with a group called We Make Movies that teaches kids movie making, and now they've got a couple of their celebrities that are going to get involved in our stuff. Celebrity is great. It gives you opportunity. We're really excited that AMC Theaters chose Orphaned Starfish as their charity of the year, and we'll be getting a PSA before every movie in every theater in November. And hopefully we'll generate some more support out of that. But I think for us, sadly, I spent half my life begging for money, which is kind of what you do when you run a nonprofit. But I always have the dream. Every so often I wake up and somebody's left me an endowment, and then all we can do is focus on the kids. But for now, again, I can't thank you enough for getting the word out. We're the best little charity no one's ever heard of, but we're changing that between this wonderful podcast, CNN, and others. We make a real difference in these kids' lives. I just got back from Brazil. There was a girl who came up to the gala 10 years ago, cute little smart kid. And now she's that woman who's like the lead nurse in the hospital in Rio dealing with all of the COVID patients. And she says, look, I saved hundreds of lives that probably wouldn't have been saved if you guys didn't come for me. We have a kid who got a degree in, I don't even remember what it is, molecular something, who's now leading the team at Sloan Kettering and looking for the cure for childhood leukemia. So it's just there's so much opportunity now, and the difference you make with these kids is the pay it forward aspect, the knock-on effect, whatever you want to call it. The difference we're making is multiplied by who knows how much.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I really get inspired by and look to when you're talking about inspiration and motivation to actually see people who have lived through whatever it is that they're talking about, and not just someone out there spewing cliches about how you can, do this and how you can do that.
I mean, look, these kids inspire me, right? I mean, let's be serious. The pandemic was a difficult time, but when you talk to these kids who've been through what they've been through in life, and they tell you that, look, you'll get through it. It's amazing. In Cambodia, there's women who were safe from trafficking. This one girl talks about her life, and it's horrendous. And she's got a big smile on her face. And I'm like, I'd be in a corner curled up in a ball, and she's like talking how she can inspire others. So it's absolutely wonderful.
So we're big here on mental health. How do you have a mental health component of this? It's great to get them to learn this stuff, but they still have this traumatic experience and have to learn how to.
So one of the requirements, it's a great question. One of the requirements in every program we partner with is that they have to have a psychologist or psychiatrist online, in-house. So in every one of our programs, there is a psychologist, not paid by us, but paid by others. But there's no way we could deal with the pain, the suffering, the recovery they need to go through. That's a part of their life. But we try to stay laser focused on what we do. But yes, in every partner organization, there is somebody there dealing with the emotional aspect of these children.
Is there room to expand from computers and all of that to help?
So we use the computers as a base. So one of the things we've done recently, which is a problem we saw and we wanted to fix, is these kids would leave these orphanages or homes where everything was taken care of for them. They get into the real world. They've got their job skills. They have no idea how to survive. They've never had to go to the market on their own. They've never had to open a bank account, rent an apartment. So we started a life skills program that we'd really like to get funded even more. But we probably got it out to maybe 9 programs, 10 programs, where we teach the kids, including, in person, there's somebody to take them out. How do you go to the market? How do you budget? How do you open a bank account? How do you, do whatever? How do you live on your own? And it's been incredibly successful. That the kids who come out of this program, in addition to beginning to get their first job, now know how to live on their own.
Yeah, those are life skills you kind of just learn at college. So these are little schools, institutions of learning. It all comes to my mind of having a university, Orphaned, Starfish Foundation University, that is on a bigger scale where you can bring people from other locations to there. Is that something you guys are?
One day, that's if that person leaves me the $40 million endowment. But until that point, we spend a lot of our time just making sure we keep the lights on and keep everything working well, and then expand as we can expand. But that's an incredible idea.
Yeah, I always wonder why there's not more people giving. People give a ton of money to a lot of things, and it's hard to say it's a bad cause or the wrong cause. But there seems to be stuff like this and other types of foundations where $40 million, $100 million, all this stuff would really be used to do a lot more good.
Yeah, again, it's an issue. I try to keep a thicker skin, but yeah, the people who built that one building in that one university that gave them $300 million, I could have taken that and changed tens of thousands of lives. But everyone has their own. I respect everyone's decision. My hope, though, is that people hear about us and want to give back to what we do. And
how do they help?
So everything is it's on the screen under here, osf.org. If you want to donate, if you want to be part of the gala, if you want to get in touch, it's very simple. Years ago, they donated it back to me, the IP address. So osf.org, it's very easy. If you can't remember that, it's oldspaghettifactoryhouse.com. So osf.org is where you find everything about us, can get in touch with us. And then if you're an Instagram follower at Orphaned Starfish, you can see everything that we've been posting lately. It's about 3 months to the gala. We also accept donations all throughout the year. We just had a big ice cream fundraiser yesterday. So timing is not perfect, but we're keeping it open for another week. And that's for people who want to give smaller amounts. But yeah, anything you can do to kind of get the word out to help us. These kids are absolutely amazing. The difference we make is really, really, really impactful, measurable, and you can see the difference that we make.
Yeah, but Richard, was a lot of praise throughout the comments, and probably reach out.
Richard, I just saw your message. So it's really easy. My email is just andy@osf.org. So send me a note. Just put Andy in front of the osf.org and you're good.
What's the biggest challenge for you aside from the money?
I think the biggest challenge is it's connected to the money, is making sure that these kids have as much opportunity as they should have. And unfortunately, for when you don't have enough cash, you can't give as much opportunity. So I'd love to have robotics and coding in every institution we have. But for now, we just have it in pilot programs until we get the funding to do that. The other issue is really just exposure. And that's where you're helping, is to get the word out that what we're doing is real, what we're doing is successful, and what we're doing is replicable. And I think it's something that I'm incredibly thankful to you for really solving one of our major issues, which is getting the word out.
Yeah, it's interesting comment because it seems like it's so easy to get exposure these days, but it's not, because there's so many eyeballs and Jake Paul of the world on Instagram,
right?
On TikTok, you don't get the attention that some of these other.
Yeah, look, my hope is that some incredible influencer sees this, hears it, and decides this is going to be the cause they want to highlight on their Instagram, on their social media, and that blows things out as well. I mean, I think for us, I know what we do is real. I get to see these kids. I am blessed that I get to travel and see these kids and hear from them the difference we've made in their lives, and then have them be so proud that they're making the difference in other kids' lives. So to be able to keep doing this for the rest of my natural life is something I'm very proud of. But it's also, I have an incredible organization of people who have similar hearts all over the world. And the goal is to really make sure that this thing really continues and expands.
Yeah, well, 20 years that's an incredible number.
Yeah, again, I wake up a little bit incredulous. I didn't really start this to be around for 20 years. I work with that one orphanage or two orphanages, but it just kind of took over my life. And now there's 16,000 kids that all call me Tio or Uncle or Chio or Kuya or whatever they call me. It's really, really nice.
I didn't even know this. I probably could have. I mean, do you have the ability to do a balloon or a magic real quick?
Let me see if we can find one. Wait here real quick.
Yeah. That's the staple of the Wolff Den. We ask someone, they got to grab something, or I have to leave my seat and go grab something that I wanted to show. So.
All right, here we go. We're gonna do dog. I'll try to keep it all on camera.
Oh, you're doing good. Much better than the other balloon incident we had on the Wolff Den, which is the Wolff Den Blooper Hall of Fame. There we go. That is awesome. How did you learn this?
So that's a funny story. So like I said, I always work with kids. I was working at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York, and I was in the children's wing, and I was helping with the kids and talking to them. And the volunteer coordinator, for lack of a better word, was this real bitch. And she was like, "Look, we have too many volunteers. You're all just a waste of time. Unless you have a skill, you can't come back tomorrow." And I'm like, "Screw you." This is pre-internet, so I went to the library and I got a book on how to make balloon animals. I learned how to make 3 or 4 animals. This is before latex allergies were a thing. And I came back and I started making these 4 balloon animals for the kids. And like, okay, you can stay. And then I had like 3 or 4 animals that I made, and then I started going to the orphanages. And the kids in Mexico are like, yeah, that's nice 4 animals. What else can you make? And then I had to make more animals. Now I have like 30 animals that I can make. And then I started magic. So I started doing now I do like a 45-minute magic show.
Oh, that's great. We're a big fan of magic. Do you know the scene in Wedding Crashers?
So yeah, I have a funny story about that. So I took a group of volunteers to Panama, and 30 kids are lined up to get balloons. And there's one kid in the corner talking to these 3 guys. And none of these kids speak English. So, yo quiero un perro, I make a dog. Yo quiero un ratón, I make a little mouse. Yo quiero un, cisne, I make a little swan. And then the kid they were talking to finally gets to the front of the line. And he looks at me and he goes, "Make me a bicycle, clown." And the guys in the corner just laughing their ass off. He has no idea what he's saying.
Well, Vince Vaughn made him what did he make? He made him a bicycle.
Made him a bicycle, yeah. But I'm pretty sure Vince didn't do that.
No.
I'm pretty sure some famous balloon maker knew how to do that, because that would take you hours.
Yeah. Do you have any inspiration magicians? I love magic. We watch America's Got Talent. Shin Lim was unbelievable.
Love all that. For me, Penn and Teller are my favorite magicians. I love Penn and Teller. I was blessed to meet them and make a balloon animal for them. in Vegas. My folks live in Vegas. And then David Copperfield from way back when is, always been an idol. But, I do very simple child magic. It's nothing, it's a 45-minute show. You'll figure out maybe half the tricks.
It's good. And half of it's humor now. My nephew had a magician at his bar mitzvah last month, and he was just funny, like corny.
Yeah, I mean, all my stuff. I can do the show in Spanish and Portuguese. And yeah, it's all about jokes and making the kids laugh.
Yeah, I love magic. It's something that like almost anyone can do, really.
Yeah, really. I mean, I have no real skill outside of the balloon thing, which I've figured out I've been done so many times. But again, it doesn't take very long. I could teach you to make a balloon dog in about 10 minutes. And every kid just loves you doing something for them. I mean, the dog will only last maybe a day or two, but the fact that they got to choose something and you made it for them is really special.
Yeah, it reminds me of the cruise animals that the people put on your bed, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. The little, the swan or the dog or right.
Yeah, monkey.
It just makes you feel good.
Can you solve a Rubik's Cube?
I cannot.
I feel like that's very similar to the making the balloon on your hand.
I think there was all these tricks. I remember way back when I was a kid, and there were all these like tricks. You have to get it to one color on this side. No, I never had the patience for that.
Yeah, I can't do it either. The people who can is kind of incredible. Just to remember how to do it. Sometimes you could be off, like even making a balloon on it, you could be a little bit off, and it's still like
right. But that's right.
Yeah. I have to like take it apart the screen. We used to rip the stickers off when we were younger. Talk about behind you. We're a memorabilia company. You have a silent auction at the gala?
We do. So these all come from the silent auction that I decided that I need to buy. Mariano, we honored one year at the gala, and he came and he was so generous and so nice and really did. He signed a bunch of jerseys and all of that. Dwayne actually taught my son how to shoot a three-pointer at the All-Star game one year. And Jorge and his wife are very big in supporting Puerto Rico. But I've got all over my apartment. I have these wonderful, wonderful kind of memories and gifts of people around the world that want to support. But yeah, we have a big silent auction. And so, if any of your listeners kind of have ideas or prizes, again, experiences are the most sought after, but women's accessories, sporting events, things like that, really would make a great deal of difference as we raise money for these kids.
How many people are in the tri-state area? How many are outside of, traveling to the?
What's that?
How many people are in the tri-state area who go to the gala?
Well, again, it's so out of the 450 that come, probably 300 plus are from the tri-state area. The rest fly in.
So you're looking at a lot of New York.
New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. Most people that work in New York but are coming in from the those areas because that's where they live.
And a lot of support from your Wall Street.
Yeah, so it's a lot of Wall Street, a lot of real estate, a lot of I mean, so again, I had thought I was going to do this when I was much younger, and I was talked into going and getting my career done first. And without that, I would not have had some of these amazing connections of people who have been very, very generous.
Is it always in New York? Any thoughts of bringing it elsewhere?
So no, so it won't move, but there'll be a Miami version as well in the winter. So I'll keep you abreast of that. And then we have smaller functions throughout the year, either homes or smaller events. We have something called Party for a Purpose, where we'll have a club night for the foundation, probably here in Miami. So I'll keep you abreast of all of that.
Yeah, some nice praise from Richard.
Thank you, Richard. Please get in touch. So again, it's andy@osf.org. Real easy. Send me a note, and I would love to have you stream and really learn more about what you do as well.
Yeah, we talk about people doing good, and the other day I was talking about Mr. Rogers, and just they don't make them like that anymore. I always ask. Sometimes I ask the guest, my feeling is if someone told me this person is not who he portrays to be, he would shock you the most. For me, it's Tim Tebow. is there someone in your mind who's like this? I don't want to say saint, but just.
Well, again, I try not to put anyone into sainthood because, look at people like Bill Cosby, who was everyone's father figure on TV and turned out to be what he was. My heroes are you've never heard of them. They're the people who run these orphanages, the nuns, the secular women, the people who gave up their homes so that these kids could live there. They're not people that you would ever come across. But to me, those are the real heroes.
Well, let's give them some pub here. Who's the MVP? If you had to give an MVP for the last 18 months.
Madre Noemi, who is a nun in Mexico City, who's the funnest nun. She does Dance Revolution in her full habit.
Yeah.
But she has cared for these kids. But oh my God, there's so many. Every single one, honestly. Panama, Peru. I mean, everywhere. The people I was just with in Brazil, Elizabeth, Ileana. There's so many. I couldn't tell you all of them. Each and every one just has dedicated their lives to helping others, and that to me that's the hero.
I think awards would be a good. Is there an award section of the gala? Do people get awards?
No, we haven't done awards. We do honoring people who give us large amounts of money. We honor them. We try again, with awards and honoring, we try to keep the night really, really fun. So we don't want a lot of speeches. So we should give awards out. I like that. Maybe we'll do something like that. Good idea.
You've traveled a ton of places. Obviously, this takes you everywhere. Where's the favorite place you've been? It doesn't have to be with Orphaned, Starfish. And where's a place you've never been that you'd love to go?
All right, so I have different places for different things. And I always say this to start is every place is absolutely amazing and the people are wonderful. For nature, the Galapagos Islands are something that's really, really special. If you get a chance to do that in your lifetime, I would absolutely do it. In Kathmandu, Nepal, up in the mountains with the monastery I work with there is just a special kind of magical kind of place. Bali, Indonesia is incredible, very, very spiritual. For nature, Alaska, if you get a chance to go up to Alaska and go see the whales and the sharks and everything else is absolutely wonderful. And then in terms of pure fun and love, Rio de Janeiro, where I just was, is just one of my favorite cities on earth. And I was debating between moving there or Miami, which I love as well. But the world's an amazing place. I've been to 134 countries, and each one has its own allure, has its own wonderful people, food, etc. So I have a couple of places I like a little bit more than others, but I can go back to any place I've ever been and been really happy.
Where haven't you been that you would love to get to?
So there's a small nation called Bhutan, Bhutan, very close to India and Nepal. They only allow very, very few people in a year. It's supposedly one of the happiest places on earth. And it's a kingdom that I've always wanted to go to. And then there's only two countries in this hemisphere I haven't visited yet, Suriname and French Guiana. So I have to knock those out just so I get this whole hemisphere down. So those are on the list as well.
Well, there you go. I have no doubt that you'll get there, whether it's for pleasure or for the orphan.
Yeah, Suriname, I work with the maroon population in Jamaica, and the other source of Native Maroons is in Suriname. So we'll probably do something there.
See it happening. We'll let you out of here on the same question we let everyone out. You have a day to spend with someone. It could be anyone in the world. They have to be living, and you can't be related to them. Who you're going to pick, and what would you do? And obviously, it's not someone who you've met or can meet. We're going to try and make it happen. We've done some outreach. We've had some interesting answers. Some that I think are very doable. Some that I never make happen, like Putin. But we're going to try either way. Give us a name.
Who would I like to meet in the world that's still alive?
Yeah.
Malala. The young woman who was shot teaching, learning to read in Afghanistan.
What did she win a Nobel Prize? What did she win?
I think she won the Nobel Prize.
Yeah, that would be.
That's someone I would like to meet, and is not political. Because there's other people I would say that they're political, and I can't get on either side of politics. So
yeah, we've had some political. We've had both sides. People wanted to meet Trump. People want to meet Obama.
Right. But I know better than I know better than if you run a charity, you stay out of politics.
Well, she's on the list. It's a great choice. We'll do what we can. Check out osf.org, Orphan Starfish Foundation, Orphan Starfish on Instagram. We got the gala coming up in New York. Going to be more events down here in Miami, but reach out, spread the word. If you can help. If you can't, share. And I got some ideas for you too, so we'll talk afterwards. And really appreciate your time. It's great to hear more about what you're doing. And so many great causes. I think this is just another one of those that are great causes and need more attention, a bigger platform, more money, all of that stuff. I hope to hit it big so I can give a bigger platform.
Absolutely. I'm counting on it.
But we're gonna help. We're gonna help however we can, and I know my network will do some good stuff to help. So, pleasure to put the face with the name and the voice, and look forward to seeing what you guys can come up with and celebrating a few years.
You're an angel. Thank you so much for giving a platform for me and for others. Matt, you're absolutely wonderful. I really, really appreciate the opportunity. And I want to thank all of your network and all your listeners for taking the time to listen and think about helping our kids.
Yeah, we're going to share and get to more people, and we'll see where it goes. Some great guests this week, so tune in tomorrow for another episode of this one. Have a great day.
Thank you.